welcome to the first kind of Noise Poison podcasts. We just decided to give you guys a chance to get to know us better, and we are having conversations and you can just like listen to us basically. So today we have one of the new artists of Noise Poison, that is Nyotech from Portugal, and it was actually one of the first artists that were signed into Noise Poison after its reopening. Now amongst a bunch of other ones, like 12 or 13 other ones, and yeah, that's the introduction. So Neo, you can say a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself. Yeah.
Okay, hello guys. From now, my name is João. I'm from Portugal. I live in Sunshine. It's closer by the capital, Lisbon, that everyone knows. And I'm 27 years old, almost 28. And my main project is Nyotech, the one that we probably were going to talk more today.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's this, the basics from me.
Awesome.
Further with no more for sure.
Yeah. So, like, how did you first get into music, production, into the creation of music? Because I know there's always this point where, you know, where the decision is made, and then also the point where it's actually becoming a reality, and you get your first DAW or your first possibility. So tell us a little bit about this whole story, how this happened, how it came together, like how long is it ago, and what was your life back then, basically?
Okay, so probably we can even start from a little bit before all of this, because I come from a family where my father was a DJ already. My older brother, he is DJ too, and it's a lot inside music. So.
What styles do they DJ? Sorry if I interrupt you.
Yeah, no worries. My father, it comes from the 80s times, past 80s. My brother, he was starting in more underground electronic music style, and in nowadays he is making events with more commercial stuff. He went out a little bit from this underground way, and yeah.
But he's still active, or what, in this field?
Yeah, my brother still's being active. He made radio too for a long time. It's from there actually the main work that he's doing all the time. But he has a company where he makes events too. One that it's actually considered one of the most nicer ones here in Portugal right now, that it's called even Revenge of the 90s. So it's a 90s style party.
Oh, I think you can get an idea about the type of the event already from the name, to be very honest with you. It's like quite commercial.
Goes like dressed up in 90s style, and they just listen only music.
Okay.
90s that it's, and yeah.
Those kinds of events in Germany, they are horrible, I believe. I don't know how it is in Portugal. It's maybe completely different vibe. But here, if you would go to a 90s party in Germany, that would be not too sure about that.
Like, bro, these parties that he's making, it's more like, how can I say this? I don't consider it like a party. I consider it like more a show, because you have different parts over the time while it's occurring.
Yeah.
And you have live artists that comes, bands like people, Portuguese artists back from the times in 90s, famous people like this that comes, and yeah, it's a nice thing if you want to go just to party and be a little bit crazy.
Okay.
different
So
styles.
so yeah, keep on going with like the connection. We segued into this part. So where
Yeah,
comes?
so uh, around my 14, more or less, I started to have a couple of bands. I was listening a lot hardcore punk music, like heavy metal style and stuff like this. And from there, I started to have contact even with the recording from the instruments. Thing that after I even studied a little bit too. And from there, uh, it started to have. I started to have a contact too with drum and bass music,
Hmm.
this in the electronic style, talking like this, like in drum and bass dubstep at the time. I was listening already a little bit of psytrance music. Actually, around 14 years old, I was actually in my first party because I was living in Almere, which is here in Portugal, one of the most known places where it occurs psytrance
Is it
parties.
in the north or is it
No,
in?
it's in the center.
It's in
It's
the
in the
center.
center, bro.
Okay, okay, okay.
I think that you actually even went
I'm
already
pretty
to
sure.
that place.
Yeah, like I think
Yeah,
I played the
it's
last time when
kind
I
of
played there. I played with in Sector, and I think it sounds familiar. I played a couple of times in Porto, like not in Porto, but in this area, and I really enjoyed it. But every time when I was in Portugal, I have to say I enjoyed it so much. And I mean, I was there. I was growing up there as a small child, so for me, it's like anyway a special place. Not only in that regard. But I really enjoyed each and every time when I played there. I guess I was very lucky with the organizers. I have to say it was all very big organizations and proper promoters. Last time was actually Utopia when I played. That was also nice.
okay. Okay. I know. Yeah, like you said to me before, yeah, actually, that you were live here in Portugal too before, when you were a kid, right?
Yeah. I was living here in Portugal. And not here in Portugal. We were living in different places. We were coming with a caravan from Germany when I was like 3 years old, and we lived in Lagos. We lived in near Celau. No,
Yeah.
in Celau. This was the name of the village, and this was near Montchique. I was even in school in Montchique as a 5-year-old boy. They sent me to the school there. I had to go 1 hour with the bus from my village. It was a very small village, but I also lived in Valle de Paraíso, which is the place where Boom Festival is held for 6 months.
Yep.
And it was very different back then. Idania Nova was a very different place also back then in 1990, I think 1991, something like that. It was not. It was smaller and less people than it is today. This much I can say. And yeah, but this is my connection to Portugal. So I love to go there and to play there, and also the professionalism that I encountered there. I know that this is not like 100% all the time, because it's nowhere 100% all the time. But I was super lucky. It was like all the time. It was very proper, and they were very organized in a way, I have to say.
Yeah, exists a couple of nice organizations in Portugal.
Yeah.
Organizers that do proper stuff and nice work, actually.
Yeah, agree.
And yeah, as I was saying, like around my 14, I went to my first psytrance party because I was living in this city that I said to you before, Almere, where it's one of the most known places, and from even where Boom happened already back in the time.
In Almere?
Yeah, it happened once there, bro.
Okay, so it didn't happen all the time in Valle de Paraíso. It was
No.
Okay.
I think that it was the edition from. I don't want to lie to you,
but maybe
it was
2000.
No, 98. I think.
98, yeah, exactly. 98 could be right.
98, something like this.
Yeah.
And yeah, like from there, I started to go more into electronic music styles, as I said, to drum and bass and dubstep and more tech. And inside of the psytrance itself, I always kind of, well, in all the genres itself of music, I kind of went all the time to the most brutal stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, without joking.
Like, so you like intense music? That's what you like. That's what you enjoy.
Yeah. I really.
You're
enjoy
looking for
this.
that. Yeah, you're looking for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For example, even inside of metal, for example, I normally say that exists for me all the heavy metal bands, and exists, for example, Lamb of God. Yeah, let's make a little promotion. Lamb of God. For me, it's my favorite band. For the ones that know, they know that it's kind of a more underground style inside of metal itself, and they have a particular way of making this aggressive music, which kind of all the time since I remember pushed me a lot.
Yeah,
to
but
such
it's like is it just aggressive, or is it aggressive but in an aesthetic way?
in an aesthetic way.
Exactly, because for me, I love intense and aggressive music, but it needs to have that beauty at the same time. It needs to be cutting edge aggression. If it's aggression, it needs to be very directed and not just blatantly aggressive music. Most of the time sound shit, or I don't know. If music is aggressive, it should also have very high fidelity, in my opinion.
Sure.
Because then it's just like it can become very stressful in a way if it's just aggressive. I mean, if that's the only motive. But I like the word intense way more than aggressive, I guess, in this kind. Yeah.
We can consider it better like that and describe it better like that.
Yeah.
Intense way, because in the end it's an intense feeling that
it's exactly. I feel also, and I don't really connect it to aggression. I actually connected rather to ecstatic, or really just intense, like a animalistic almost kind of vibe, like intense, aggressive, like music. But okay, it's super subjective anyway.
And like as I said, from there with bands I started to record some stuff. We were using at the time Fruity Loops.
It's so funny.
Accessible to everyone.
Yeah, because like the first time I ever touched a DAW in my life, it was Fruity Loops. But with touching, I mean literally like 1 or 2 hours sitting in front of it, way before I started to make music, because it was on some computer in some friend's place. And then I didn't see the program for 20 years after that, basically. And it had a very, very, very bad reputation. A time ago, it was said about... People said that it sounded plasticky, and to be honest, it did sound, in many productions, sounded plasticky. Like, I'm talking about 2008, 2006, those... in this time. Nowadays, I think it's way more advanced, but it's, I believe, one of the most popular DAWs, nevertheless, and this is quite interesting. It's like, from the market share, it has ultimately, for example, there is this fetishism with Cubase, which I share. I love Cubase. It's for me, like, it's the DAW that I always use, and I love it. Yeah. With all its quirks, but ultimately it has a lesser market share than Fruity Loops. Fruity Loops has a way bigger market share, as far as I know, when I checked the last time, which is interesting, because it's your subjective feeling about something. In this case, for me, it's Cubase. It's the original DAW. It's where all DAWs come from. It's the mother of all DAWs, which is like accurate in a way. But then many other people use a completely other DAW, and they don't even give a shit about Cubase. But for me, it's almost religious. Like Cubase, I love Cubase.
But, I think that people starts to be a little bit scared about Cubase, just for the reason that imagine when you start to make something, normally you don't buy your DAW straight.
Well, it depends. It really depends. Many people buy their DAW or use also bundled DAWs. There's a lot of people who would never spend a thought about pirating something. Then there's the people who are totally doing that. and I don't know the percentage of how much are how much. There's a bunch of people who are just pirating stuff, and I honestly, I don't condone piracy or something, but it's freaking amazing that some African boy in Uganda can download Cubase and start on his dad's laptop, or maybe there is a computer. For some reason he has access to a computer. I mean, if he downloads Cubase, I guess he has access to a computer anyway. And this is freaking amazing that he can just start this. And I doubt that Steinberg would have anything against that, or would pursue that legally. I'm not even sure if they pursue anything legally, but they make it. I don't know, is Cubase cracked by now? I think the newest version not, but in the case of Cubase, you need this dongle. It is the second dongle. I have the second, it's my second dongle for Cubase, because my first one that I had for a long time, it broke, and then I had it still, and it was L-shaped, so basically you had...
Yeah, I know which ones you are talking about.
I showed it to you. Yeah. It was freaking scary, and of course, at some point it broke, and I registered it just in the last second, one day before it completely broke. And if it would have been completely broken, I would have lost my complete license, which is worth a lot of money. And it's kind of a pain in the butt, to be honest, that you always have to, like, for example,
depending
if you have multiple computers, even if you have multiple computers, it's like I know it's not a big deal. You take the fucking dongle, you stick it inside the other computer, but this sticking stuff in, out, I don't like it. I want it to. So that's that with Cubase. That's one of the little quirks with Cubase, but I guess also this gives them the best protection probably. In
terms of license, of course.
Yeah, so like, and that's fair enough, and I really believe those companies, they invest more into mean DRM, like FabFilter or something like that have really, really mean DRM in a way that is hurting the user in one way or another, or they have super sophisticated DRM, like Steinberg Cubase, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, we were going into a completely different direction.
We were.
Yes, but it's actually, we should call this podcast probably the Got podcast. It's probably Got. It's like Get High Online Together.
Get High Online Together. Yeah, yes. We can do it.
Because we were asking ourselves, how do we call it? And so that could be a good name. But so continue. Quite interesting what you said. And I have also one question, but I'll let you continue and then.
Yeah, like as I was saying about the DAW itself, just to finish my perspective about why I said that people could feel afraid about Cubase. I think that it's the way, and how can I say, the friendly user from Cubase to another DAWs. In another way.
You mean that it's unfriendly?
No, I don't say that it's unfriendly. I say that probably you need to have kind of a little bit more knowledge already into a DAW itself.
I don't know how true that is today in comparison to, for example, this is more true, for example, if you're talking about Cubase SX3, for example, which I used.
Or even 5 Pro.
Yeah, but the SX3 is the one that I started, and it was way less user-friendly in a multitude of ways. It was less user-friendly. The mixer was a piece of crap. Then, I mean, how you use inserts today, that you just like type the insert that you want. It's just like everything is so streamlined. There is a buttload of features now in Cubase that are really user-friendly, and yes, you need maybe the first steps, but ultimately I think this is kind of a dogma that sticks with Cubase, that people think it's more complicated than other DAWs, because it was in the past. The entry was even harder than it is today, and maybe you could argue that it's still one of them. But doesn't it have a learning feature now?
It has another stuff here, another point here that I just need to tell you, bro, that it's in another way. It can. I'm sorry to interrupt you. In another way, I think that if you learn and you start from it, you can get much more easier and knowledge itself about a DAW that it can bring you there even with another ones. You know, it can be even more easy for you.
I agree, 100%. 100%.
You know, like when you learn in Cubase, it's mostly, for me, it's the most professional DAW that exists.
I agree, but okay, it's of course we're totally biased here. That's for sure. Like if you are out there, whoever is listening, are using another DAW, that's totally fine. There are a ton of producers which show what you can do with FL, for example. A lot of really high level producers are using that, etc. But I agree 100%. I agree 100%, and it's exactly what I also tell my students. And it's also my argument. It's like, this is the mother of all DAWs. It was the first program to send MIDI data. Actually, it was not a DAW when it was conceptualized and designed and produced for the first time. It was a program solely to send and receive MIDI data. And then musicians started to abuse this for music, obviously. But MIDI was just a data protocol, basically. And was, you know, it's still today used for everything, to control anything you can control with MIDI. Like kinetic stuff, light, sound, any kind of machine. It's just a remote controlling device with... I will not go into details, but so from that point on, it was clear, okay, musicians are abusing this for music, and 80%, or I don't know how much of the share of customers were using it for music. So then we make it into an actual music DAW, and then Cubase, I guess, SX, I don't want to say bullshit, but from that point on, actual Cubase as we know it today was born. And then the first, I guess, Cubase 2, that was before my time. I stepped into the game when it was Cubase SX3, and it was amazing already as a DAW, state of the art back then and state of the art today. And everything what you said, I agree. If you go into a high-end studio from, let's say, Hans Zimmer, he's not gonna sit there with Fruity Loops. He's not gonna sit there with Ableton. He's going to sit there with Steinberg Cubase. Okay, you could argue now, but isn't that composer, film music maker dude? He's using Pro Tools, which a lot of professional studios use. Fair enough, okay, fair enough. But it's a damn professional DAW that has the basic setup right. And if you got that, you know, you have your timeline, you have your mixer, and this are two elements, for example, that exist everywhere. I mean, basically it comes down that it's everywhere the same shit. You have your MIDI channels, you have your instruments, you have your MIDI controllers. It's all the same things.
It goes a little bit with your workflow too, and which one it makes you feel more comfortable.
Exactly, and this is the thing. We are working with Cubase since a long time, both of us, and for us it's an extension of our brain and of our soul, basically, literally. Because when you do something for such a long time, then it just does that. Okay, keep on going.
Yeah. So, as I said, parties, drum and bass, dubstep, and psytrance. It was the electronic stuff that I started to listen. Then, around my 16 years old, I started to discover a little bit about techno music, and I went into different styles of parties too. And inside of electronic music, I kind of liked all the time to explore a little bit all the genres itself and to listen kind of a little bit everything.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because it was, I can already say, if I can put that in between, I let you talk further, but for me it was actually quite the opposite. I was very singular in my focus on psychedelic music from very, very young age. Like in my youth, I was not so explorative. There was some excursions into other styles, like a little bit, few punk parties with one friend. But in the end, I was very early on getting into psytrance music and really getting into it, like as a religion, like literally.
Yeah. Like, how can I say? Psytrance was all the time one of the most biggest interests for me. As in the end, it ended up as it ended. Nowadays, I'm producing this music, and like, how can I say this? I all the time liked to search from different styles. Even as I said, I listened metal, I listened punk, I listened hardcore punk, I listened rock and roll, jazz music, classic. I don't know, bro. For real,
Yeah.
I really music, everything that.
Me too. I mean, I am interested in all kinds of music, and but this really, in my case, came way later. Way later. At first, I was like very, very focused on psytrance. It was my revelation. Like, I remember how I was sitting down with like 15 years approximately, literally every day, and I had two Sony speakers and the hi-fi system, and I put them on my table, and basically like studio speakers in the same angle, like today, just way more close to me, and was putting my head in between, just listening to music back then. I loved it so much, and I remember I lived with my sister back then, and she found it really funny that I'm having this kind of daily ritual where I'm hanging my head in between two speakers. Listen to the music, but she understood because she was partying hard on psytrance. I have it in my family. My brother and my sister, they were both going to a legendary psychedelic trance club in Munich. So yeah, keep on going. Sorry.
Yeah. In this case, I am the psychedelic sheep from my family.
Yes.
Yeah, like around 2008, more or less, bro. To be honest, was when I started to go more and more into the psytrance scene. When I went into a festival that happened here, that it's called Blissful Festival, and this festival, it doesn't happen anymore. It ended up in 2011, if I'm not wrong. And yeah, from there on, I really started to go into it. And plus, I was living, as I said, in Almere. So Almere was
like
a place where everything was happening.
Yeah.
And like I say to a lot of times in a joke mode, like that Calha do Gro, that it's the place itself, that it's my garden, my backyard.
Yes,
because to be honest, bro, I was like 15 kilometers from the place itself, and I really start to go a lot into parties from there on, like from 2008 until the nowadays. Talking like this.
Yeah. And was there any kind of singular experience that you can remember that you were like, okay, this was the point where it really hooked me? Like, for example, some trip or something like that.
Yeah.
There was something.
Yeah, there was. Actually, there was. I can say that I had a point where I actually said to myself, this is the thing. And I actually had a couple of years after, like a confirmation about it, like I had to experience actually made me understand or say to myself, like,
this is the shit.
This is my environment. This is what I really like,
Yeah.
One of the times, and curious was actually that both of the times was with artists that were playing dark side, and the first time that this happened, it was actually in 2010 when I saw Kinzadze playing for 3 hours in a birthday party. From myself, it was my birthday in this day, and bro, okay, let's be honest, I was high. I was
of course. I mean,
I was with a lot of acid on my mind, to be honest.
Yeah.
And the live act from Kinzadze at this time was pretty mind-blowing to me. I was like 17 years old, and I was with actually a really huge dose of acid on my brain. And this live set from Kinshasa kind of changed my mind in the way of what I really loved inside of psytrance itself, the style itself, and it made me understand too, like what the most more intense psychedelic music could actually make to you in kind of an experience itself. You know, I cannot say that in that day I had a spiritual experience with the music itself, because I didn't have, but I really had an understanding about the psychedelic itself in a more intense way. Because
I understand. Like if you compare that to like Morning Full On or something, it's like whole different level of this is this is actual serious shit, and not some dancey boom boom stuff. Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if it was actually because of my normal taste, as I said, about the fact of going all the time into a more intense music in all the genres itself. But to be honest, it was actually what made me awake to this style, awake my mind to this style itself at the time, and kind of change.
Okay, interesting. I would say that actually, like the last track that you sent me to listen, actually I could hear that a bit, that, you know, there's for sure some influence or some inspiration there from this style, from Kinshasa. Or
from Since I Remember, bro. To be honest, it's one of my favorite artists of all the times.
Yeah. He's a master. As far as I know, I hope I'm not saying something that is bullshit, but I think his father is a clockmaker, and I feel that makes so much sense. You know what I mean? Yeah, like
it's that specific way of him to put the sound.
Yeah, clockmakers work on tiny little machines. Basically, this is what they do, and they tune them, and that's basically what Kinshasa's music sounds like. Very, very complex psychedelic machines in a way that are very, very finely interacted and very, very finely. It's really like space engineering kind of stuff. It's very interesting, to say the least, and it's also interesting because often it's atonal. It's more about like the sound design and just like really like spacey exploration of what is possible with synthesis and sound, and often I feel that he doesn't give a shit about tonality or something like that. It's still harmonic and stuff, but you know,
I think that this detune stuff in the end, because it's still being harmonic, but it's not on tune sometimes.
But totally he does that just like, it's not an accident. It's just like the fact that he doesn't give a shit. It's like atonal design. It's about the sound itself, and it's not about that there's of course still many musical stuff going on. It's just not the primary focus, I guess. I feel a bit like that, but that's just like how I feel about it.
What I wanted to say about it is that I think that it was actually this that captivates me a lot into this style itself, you know, this spacey you all the time had.
For me, it was his partner which influenced me a lot in exactly this time. We were religiously listening to Tchaikovsky, especially
Tchaikovsky, of course, bro.
Or especially the album Da Budiet. That was intense, and we had like this kind of ritual, like a friend and my girlfriend at the time, and my dog back then was always with me as well, Koma, and we always listened to Da Budiet and took quite strong doses of LSD, like 250, 220, something like that. And then I remember you were listening to that album. And then afterwards you were asking yourself, okay, what should we put now? It becomes ultimately difficult because you just listen to a psychedelic masterpiece that is untouchable.
It's a mind blown.
Yeah, the mind is blown. Your mind is blown, and it's quite hard to like. Okay, what comes even close? And what came close? I remember even what we decided then. What makes the most sense? And it was Polyphonia, and that was quite a good decision. It's a hard thing to decide what to play after the boot yet. It's my favorite album still from him, and one of my favorite albums.
Polyphony makes the work too. Polyphony makes the work after it, I think too.
Yeah. He was also extremely very, very, very high quality stuff. Polyphonia. Okay, keep on going. We are keeping.
How can I say this? Well, back then, from after this experience, especially, I entered into the university and I started to study. That was the part where I studied a little bit the studio part, where we made instrument recordings and not properly electronic music, but more about
the dry techniques of recording and leveling
and the post-production audio to cinema, especially.
All right, that's awesome. That's a good
Foley
foundation.
Works,
yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Making Foley works,
field recordings also and stuff like that.
Yes.
Like microphoning or microphone knowledge, I guess.
Exactly.
And that's quite good. That's quite good.
And so unfortunately, I didn't finish my studies at the time.
Well,
it was not what I was searching for specifically.
But do you regret it today? Probably not.
No, bro, because to be honest, I learned a lot that in nowadays I even use.
Yeah.
You know, and I think no, because I went through more into this music production stuff, and
exactly.
I just went like full focus on this.
Yeah. And you already have like, you know, like there's still a lot of people I think that still don't know you in some places, but I think that it's like really starting to catch up, that people start to listen to your stuff, and a lot of people really like it because it has this cyber kind of vibe to it, and yeah.
At the time when I was in the university, I started to have more contact than in music production, and it was at this time that I discovered Cubase too. And at the time, I was studying with Bernardo Mentaleco, another artist that all of you guys probably know.
Yeah, of course. I know him from before. It's so funny because I know all those guys from actually before they were famous. Like,
yeah.
Met you too in this case, maybe.
And at the time, I even met Ugly Ducky, Miguel too. That it's Mamaom and Ugly Ducky. And well, at the time, they were like the persons with who I was hanging out. And Bernardo was starting to make music. And I kind of start to go like following them. I grabbed my computer and I installed Fruity Loops, and then I installed Cubase because I was not arriving anywhere with Fruity Loops. And then, from there on, I started to make kind of certain experience with Psytrance, but I was not arriving to anywhere. So I started with drum and bass, to be honest, to make a little tracks about it in this style. And after, when I went out from the university, I actually decided I'm gonna make Psytrance, and I tried to make a track like full-on style, morning full-on style, but to be honest, this was not like what I was feeling inside of me to do. So at the time I was living next by a guy that it's Zabot. It's a Portuguese artist that he makes morning and psychedelic full-on, talking like this and making the genre like this. And he was with more knowledge about Cubase, and he started to share with me like how I could arrive to make like the basic stuffs of Psytrance construction.
Yeah.
And from there on, yeah, I get into this more focus and full power since 2011, more or less 2012. It was when I get more into
Yeah, yeah.
this itself. But as I said, it was a long process because, to be honest, bro, I was doing this, but at the same time, I was working already. So my life kind of have a wave during these years until I arrived to a point that I started to really make something that I could consider a track. You know,
Yeah, the start is always, of course, really, really hard, and it's what you have to transcend, what you have to overcome in the beginning, and this is what kind of differentiates the people. Do you have the ability to be bad and pull through until you are good, or do you give up because you say, I'm not good at this? And this is what differentiates somebody who is making it as an artist and somebody who wants to do it but fails ultimately. Yeah. Interesting.
And during this time until I released my first tracks, I was playing like a DJ set, mostly Hitech already. And yeah, after 2014, I think it was when I released my first track. It was a VA that a friend of me that was making covers at the time. He decided to release a VA by himself, and at the time the company from him that was making these covers. And yeah, like I released there my first track, and after that,
yeah, you released another one and another one. Okay, so let's talk a little bit, like, usually there is a point as an artist where you are expanding your reach a little bit. So this reach goes further and further and further as your career progresses normally. So like in my case, it was at first in Germany, but then very quickly in the countries all around, like, you know, other countries that are next to Germany, like Austria and Switzerland and those kind of places, and then more and more and more. So at which point, which are the places that you visited until now, basically?
like where I played already.
Yeah, exactly. Apart from Portugal, did you play in any other places?
Yes, I played in Germany, in Munich.
Yes, okay.
I played in Switzerland, in Swiss, in 3 times already.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't remember, and I don't want to say bullshit here about the places itself.
The names of the places. Okay, doesn't matter. Switzerland is it's so small you can treat it actually as a city in its entirety. It's like, let's just treat it as a city, like Swiss city.
Yeah, I played in Brazil already too.
That's amazing. Tell me.
2 tours in Brazil.
2 tours.
One in 2018 and another one in 2019.
Yeah, so that makes sense, of course, because you have the ability, obviously, to communicate with the promoters. Because I played many times in Brazil, and I know that actually most people there don't speak English. So
yeah.
So you have a little joker in your pocket with the Brazilian.
It's easy to us to communicate, actually.
Exactly, and they enjoy that they have somebody that. Yeah, it's easier. I remember that time when one promoter booked a flight for me to Brazil, and it was booked not on my name, which is Samuel Zimmerman. It was booked Zimmerman. So then he basically lost 1,200 euros on that. Because it's a transatlantic flight. Obviously, that is non-revertible, so he ultimately had to buy another flight because he did that. But who does that also? You ask yourself, who does book something on, like, you know, it's an expensive flight. And how does that make sense to anybody to read twice the last name of somebody and think like, that's good, let's go, you know, like.
Yeah, sure.
And it was not interchangeable. So, and this guy didn't speak a word of English, and it was also funny. It was a really large festival, very large festival, commercial in a way, because obviously if you have 15, 20,000 people, you cannot say that this is underground anymore or something.
Yeah, of course.
And of course there was a contract, and the contract was in English, but of course the person, he signed the contract, but he didn't know anything about what was written in the contract. I found out afterwards, obviously, because he doesn't speak English. He just signed the thing and thought like, okay, fair enough. But to their defense, I have to say that they booked an amazing hotel, like a really like luxury place in Moema in Sao Paulo, and ultimately they paid the second flight, and they paid me in full my a large fee in this case. So after all this, it was very stressful because the whole situation with the flight and so forth. But then after you played also on a big festival or something like that, and you get your money, and Brazil is crazy. And I happened to stay then to not take my flight because I met somebody that I knew over CTC from Biomechanical Records, who is a Brazilian, and I knew that this guy was a cool guy, Goof Rider, Gustavo from Sao Paulo, and we met, and he invited me to the studio. And I arrived there, and I thought like, wow, that's amazing. He has everything. He has a virus. He has a nice little home in a nice area and everything. And he invited me to stay there, and I stayed 3 weeks. I called the airline because the second time when they booked the flight, I forced them to actually book the flight on the airline. This is why they couldn't change it, They couldn't change the flight because it was booked on some online travel agency, and then you cannot change it. But if you if you book directly with the air, that's a pro tip, by the way. Like if you book directly with the airline, they are super cool, and it will maybe cost some money to do some changes, like name changes or date changes or whatever, but they're gonna do it no problem. So it was one phone call. I decided, okay, I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna stay here. And it was the right gut feeling. I was giving workshops there, I had more gigs there, and I experienced the best that Sao Paulo has to offer. Because Sao Paulo, the people say, it's such a dangerous place, and it is. But I had an amazing time there. I was in the art galleries, I was meeting amazing people there. We were going to a beach with a car and to a family house of Gustavo. And we had such a beautiful time there. So and I made more money ultimately also. So this spontaneous kind of stupid looking decision ended up to be amazing decision. So my question to you is, what is the craziest shit basically that you have experienced? I'm sure there are 1 million stories, as many people have 1 million stories, but maybe you can share one story with us that you find.
Okay. I have a funny one, a funny one actually. That it was, I think that all of us passed already from crazy situations on stage. Who is playing already passed from crazy situations on stage. And in 2016, I remember that I came back from Calimela Festival, that it was happening in Spain.
Oh, that festival.
Yeah, and I arrived in the next day in Portugal, in the end of the festival, and the next day I was playing in a festival here in Portugal, that it was called Secret Feminine Festival.
Secret Feminine?
Yeah, it was a festival of 1 week to celebrate like the woman's power and stuff.
That's sorry, but that's. Hey guys, welcome back. We just had like a little tiny technical difficulty. The recording stopped, so we were dropping out of the recording when Joao was just starting to explain about his craziest experiences when playing, and he started to explain something about a trip to Brazil. So we are gonna just kick off from that. But in the meantime, it also kind of has a good side effect, because I had a good idea. We're going to listen to some music from Joao, like new stuff together, so that you can have basically like a sneak peek into his production, his current productions, and hopefully I don't hit the space bar accidentally a second time. Because of course we don't want it. It's so awkward. It's a natural flowing conversation, and then you have to like repeat the stuff. But fortunately we didn't lose too much time now. I think I realized we didn't drop too much behind now. Like a couple of minutes we have lost. Yeah. And since this is anyway a quite long format, I mean, we're already talking, I think, for around like maybe 40 minutes or something like that. Now we're keeping on talking, so it doesn't really matter, because it's a long format. Anybody who's interested that much that he's still listening, then. So let's get into the story with Brazil. What happened to you there, Joao? Tell us.
Yeah, so one of my craziest stories and experience that probably happened.
Can you talk a little bit louder?
Yep. No. Test 1 2 1 2. When I went to Brazil for the second time in 2019, I went and I needed to catch. My first stop was in São Paulo, and from there I needed to catch another flight to Curitiba. And
which is in the south of Brazil, basically, like quite long way from Sao Paulo. So it's like
like by bus it's 17 hours, bro. From
Yeah.
Sao Paulo until Curitiba.
And it's not fun to go 17 hours through Brazil. It's not.
I had actually two crazy experiences. I can say that it was this one going there and actually in the coming back. You know, like this is gonna be
Okay, one after another.
Yeah. This was a crazy experience. Not fault of anyone. It was just crazy stuffs that were happening. Like, for example, going there, I went to Brazil and my credit card at the time was not working, so I just grabbed my debit card, thinking that it was working in Brazil. So I just pick it up 50 euros before I go out from the airport to have money in my pocket when I arrived. And with this 50 euros, I arrived in São Paulo, and I was eating something, and from these 50 euros, it lasted like 10, something like this. I remember that I bought even a SIM card for my phone to have internet, because I was staying there for...
Little question. So when was it? Was it the first time that you were going to Brazil? Because this was like on your part, the little mistake that you did in this story, to be honest, was like that you only took 50 euros because you trusted everything will be going according to plan.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah, so that was a little mistake.
My mistake.
Yes.
That it's my own fault, you know. In the end, it's my own fault. Well, it's my own fault in one case, but in another one, I was counting that my ticket had my bag.
Exactly. Actually, it was not your fault that this is not working. But keep on telling the story.
It's a lesson telling like this.
Yeah.
And like I was, as I said, with short money on my pocket, and my card when I went to make my check-in was not working, and the money that I had was not enough to put my bag down, because I realized that my ticket didn't have the bag booked.
Yeah, there was no baggage booked for your ticket, which is something that happened to me as well. And I'm very sure it's like, if you're playing a lot and like flying around the planet, then I believe we are not the only two guys that have at least one experience where some organizer is cheaping out and goes to some search engine to find the cheapest flight ticket from some online web agency that is without baggage, which doesn't make sense, of course. If you book an artist from Europe, obviously he needs to have most of the times they will come with baggage. Not all of the times, but most of the times.
Yeah.
And this is this noob mistake from the organizer. This was the noob mistake from the organizer, basically.
Yeah. But without problems. Oh, sorry. But yeah, like not a problem at all because they were available to send me the money and stuff. But I didn't have a way of receiving it, so I started to ask for persons if somebody could help me, and nobody could help me. And in a desperate mood already,
I can imagine it. So good, like like that you're running around the airport, and for the most people they don't know the context, so they just see a person going around asking for like some bank related stuff, like, and nobody wants to have to do something with that, especially in Brazil where most people are very paranoid about security and things like that.
Of course, bro.
And you're just a random gringo, and if you're not lucky in a situation like this, then you're in a pretty bad situation.
Yeah, man, for sure. But yeah, in a desperate mood, already seated on the ground, it came a couple that just saved my life. I explained the situation to them, and the guy just said, "But this is my bank, and you can use my card, take it." And in 5 minutes, I had the money, so I could make my check-in and catch my flight, because all of this passed in 40 minutes, like something that
yeah,
40 minutes.
Because you had to catch your flight. You had to catch your flight, yeah.
I realized this in 40 minutes before I catch my flight, so it was like crazy running around. And yeah, back from Curitiba to São Paulo, that's why I know why it is 17 hours by bus, okay? Like, I went to catch up a bus that the organizer buy the ticket to me. I had the ticket, but I arrived there.
So this you are talking now about when you were, to make it a little bit clear, because the first time you explained it a little bit better, and I guess because you're doing it for the second time now, to make it clear, you come to the airport, your baggage is not there. You're desperately trying to find somebody with the same bank account like the organizer in Brazil. Of course, nobody wants to help you in this situation because they just think, okay, Portuguese gringo running around for help. It's like better I stay out of this. And finally, you meet this nice couple who ask you, "How are you? Like, is everything fine with you?" Because they notice there are some good people. You are lucky that you met some good people who said, like, okay, like this is obviously a young boy who is from far away, and he apparently has an issue, and probably it's not even his own fault, so maybe let's ask him what's his problem. But many people do the opposite. They run away. They don't want to have anything to do with that. But you were lucky to meet those people, and this guy, that you used the bank account, and then ultimately you made it to the party. And so now we are at the point where the organizer, for some reason, which I don't really understand, he booked a bus ticket for you back?
Yeah.
Why?
Because this happened like this. For example, it happened like when I went to Curitiba, I went to play in one festival, and I was managing this tour by myself. And at this moment, I was very green in this stuff, to be honest, too. So when I went back from Curitiba, because I had another gig in São Paulo, they gave me a ticket to bus because budget at that time. And I said, okay, I can make the travel by night. I sleep inside the bus.
Fair enough, okay, yeah.
You know, like, it's okay.
Yeah.
So, bro, they had these more cheaper tickets, okay? And these more cheaper tickets, when I arrived there for the first time, the ticket was being bought online, and I didn't have the physical one to go to catch it. And I went to the place, and I said my name, and I said the number from the ticket itself, and the girl said to me, like, "But this ticket, it's not in the system. This ticket was cancelled." And I was like, cancelled? I talked with the organizer, and she came, and she talked with the person again to buy the ticket. The person buy the ticket in the same moment, another ticket that was printed for the next day to catch the bus. Okay, no problem. Then I went in the next day to catch the bus, and I just went into the same place where I get the ticket and to ask if the bus would gonna have any stop between into in the all the way, to see if I needed to catch something to eat or if I could eat in the middle in some gas station or something that like that. When I went there, bro, I just put my head there and said, "Hey, just let me know one thing. To São Paulo, the bus to São Paulo, it will gonna have any stop to buy something to eat?" And they said, yes, no problem. And I said, okay. I turned my back, and it came a guy and says, "Hey, I'm sorry, sir, what's your name?" And I said, my name is João. But why? And he said, "João, what? What's your surname?" And I said, "João Henriques." And he said, "João, can you come here with me, please?" Okay. I went there, bro. And it was not the employee talking to me. It was already a suited man, coming to me talking. And I was like, what the hell is happening here? Then he said to me, "João, let me know one thing. How did you buy this ticket?" And I said, to be honest, it was not me that buy this ticket. I'm an artist. And I came from Portugal to play here. And this ticket was bought from the organizer, from the party, to me to go to São Paulo because I was going to have more gigs there. And he said, "Yeah, but you know how she paid or he paid the ticket?" I said, "No." And he said like, "Well, so it's necessary that this person comes here." In 5 minutes, I just called to her and she came and he started to explain the situation, and the ticket was bought in a Facebook stuff that were catching tickets more cheap. I'm sorry, guys.
How do you hurt your dog while just sitting still?
No, I didn't hurt it. It was her that hurted herself.
Okay.
Yeah, like she said to the guy, "I buy this in the Facebook to a person that says that has a ticket more cheap," and blah 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 blah. And
it's a scam, of course.
This was bought with a
but it's like this. Oh, but the stupidity has no limit in this case.
No, bro, no, it doesn't have. I passed this tour from this year, bro, for real. I passed some crazy stuff there.
Yeah, but of the negative sort, I would say negative.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds quite not so nice.
But in the end, it was everything fine.
Well,
I just explained the situation to us, and he even offered the ticket because the girl he said like, "We have two solutions. You guys give me the information from where you buy this, or you buy a new ticket because I see that you both doesn't have so much guilty on this, So the girl gave all the infos from the payment that she did and to the person, at least from everything that she do from the page itself. And the guy was a nice guy, let me catch the bus without paying another ticket. And
yeah, but it's like in this story, the stupidity has very, very few limits, because it's like not only he's cheaping out on a flight, he's also cheaping out on the bus ticket. Oh my god. Like a bus ticket in Brazil is not expensive. And it's, by the way, like Sao Paulo or... No, you were in Curitiba.
Yeah, I was in Curitiba.
It's... Bus stations are very dangerous places often. It's like, in many cases, it's like there's always criminals waiting, especially for somebody like you, to be honest with you. Like young Joao... Green, perfect. Like that's perfect. Like just the right moment, waiting for the right moment, basically. Whatever it is, and Brazil, especially for a European, is hard to understand that. For example, in Portugal or in Germany, when you want to go out at 9 o'clock or at 10 o'clock in the night and you want to go to a bar, you do not have to worry that you get stabbed or shot on the way for your cell phone. No. But in Brazil, it's just reality. It's like that. Like people live with that reality. Curitiba, for example, is beautiful, but it's also in the night. It's very dangerous, and you cannot just go outside without knowing the fuck you do. With this like if in many Europeans they think they can do that anywhere, but this can have in those places quite fatal consequences for sure. If you just like, it's 9 o'clock in the evening, I'm in a cool, nice hotel. The hotel is so secure. I'm just gonna go out and look for a bar, for example, like that. It's like you're literally fresh meat walking on the street, like. And
even the Brazilian people says that they advise you to don't do it. You know?
That's of course. That's why I'm saying this. It's like it's not me that
imminent danger. You know.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like you need to have a cab or you need to have a car. Then you're going from your place, which is your home or your hotel, to a certain specific place. It's like this is not like free exploration. You know where you're going and you know how you go there, and you also know how you go back from there. Then this is the way to survive also the dangerous places in Brazil, in my opinion, because I was moving also in all of Sao Paulo, not in all of Sao Paulo, but I was seeing the city, meeting people and everything, and I had no problem because it was all well coordinated with my friend there. And as long as you take care of those things, then you're safe. And when you're stupid, then it's can be like your last trip potentially. Can be.
Yeah, the parts that I met after in São Paulo too, and even in Curitiba, all the places where I met, I didn't went alone. Like I even went into a favela with one of the guys.
But there's nice favelas as well, right? But there's also very not nice favelas.
There is very crazy favelas, bro, and this one was a crazy favela, to be honest.
I had a crazy experience in this regard. So
it's a very nice and beautiful country, in my opinion, to be honest. I really enjoy Brazil, bro. For me, it's one of the best.
Of course, me too. Me too.
That really made me.
Me too.
More and more, because actually even the crowd itself, it's unbelievable.
I agree. It's one of the best crowds in the world, if not maybe the best crowd. I was getting invited there when I played the first time. I played on Universo Paralelo, so this was my first experience, which is I think not really representative of the rest of Brazil or psytrance culture. But every time when I was there, I had a blast, especially the last time with Gustavo. That was amazing. And then all that stuff doesn't matter. I mean, it's totally doable to not do stupid shit to get yourself killed normally.
Yeah, sure.
And not only in Brazil, everywhere in the world. Just don't do stupid shit. Then it's a good start, actually. Yeah. For sure. Great. Okay, yeah. So that's a kind of probably not too uncommon that promoters try to cheap out. That's a really hardcore cheap out, though. Like, hey, I'm not going to book a flight. I'm going to book a bus. Okay, no problem. Well, I booked you a ticket. It's super amazing. It's like this little bit cheaper ticket that I bought online. That sounds. Oh my god!
I didn't even knew
they can be happy.
I knew moment, bro.
Yeah, but they can be happy that the bus people were actually nice, because he could easily have said, that's so obviously a scam. How could you have been so stupid that you buy your bus ticket in a Facebook group? Who does that? This is like, I wouldn't have been surprised if he would have said that. I wouldn't have been surprised. Like, who does that? Who is so cheap that he wants to save €2 and booking, or I don't know how much they saved, but and then they pay. Often in those situations when people are trying to cheap out and try to make it cheaper, in the end they pay triple.
It's a lesson.
Yeah, they pay triple. They pay in the end they pay more.
Sure.
Because then stupid shit happens, and this stupid
Sure,
shit then has to be taken care of, and takes a lot of more money potentially to take care of this stupid shit.
More money and another problems, bro. Because imagine
Exactly.
if the guy was not a nice guy, for example, my name was the one there, you know, because I was the one taking the trip. So I could be charged for something that's super crazy, like that. It's double cards and stuff like this, making